Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Alex and I want to welcome you again to Let's Have Coffee, and thank you again for joining me. If this is your first time or you watched the last video, which is actually my first video, thank you for subscribing, the likes. I really appreciate it. I went from 10 subscribers to 16, and if you watched the first video you would know that I have a goal of 25. So I know that's not a lot in the YouTube world, but that really meant a lot to me. So today's topic, I wanted to talk about the life and the legacy of Reverend Billy Graham. So I'm a little dressed up for this, so I'm gonna get changed and we'll get right back to it. Alright, that's a lot better. With this video, I just wanted to kind of briefly just kind of discuss as if we're having a cup of coffee together. I'd actually have a cup of coffee this time. If you haven't seen my first video, I'll link it somewhere, maybe in the description or up here somewhere, I don't know. But you gotta watch it. It's like fundamental video, okay? You cannot go on enough about Reverend Billy Graham. You can't say enough good things about him. I started doing all this research and I was just like, well, I don't want to do all this research, and because most of the stuff is, you know, you already know or something you can look up on your own. But I just wanted to mention a couple things. Like he held these large outdoor rallies. For 58 years he hosted annual crusades. 58 years. And believe it or not, the man actually disputed racial segregation. He actually did that. He preached to live audiences over the course of his time. About 210 million people. Like, let that sink in your brain. Like, I can't even imagine that. Oh, and those people, they were from about 185 different countries and territories. Yep. He was also a spiritual advisor to a lot of the U.S. presidents, from the 33rd Harry Truman to the 44th, which was Barack Obama. And a lot of people, when they hear the name Billy Graham, they think of someone of integrity, a man who was built up a reputable legacy of not only preaching the gospel, but also doing it in a way where he was reputable for it. You couldn't say one bad thing about him. He's left this earth now for about a month, and you don't hear any stories coming out in the news about, oh, we found this about him, we found this about him. And that's one of the things that I think America liked about him, is that he was who he says he was. And I'm going to talk more about that in just a minute. But first, this man had so much integrity that he wouldn't even get on an elevator by himself with the opposite sex. I mean, come on. How good is that? How awesome is that? I loved how he preached about the cross. If you ever heard him preach, he would always say something about how the cross has reconciled man, the cross this, the cross that. And he always brought it back. His messages were simple. And I think that's another reason why people like him, is his messages were simple, the gospel truth, and he was always talking it up to the cross. And the cross is the main reason. The cross, the cross, the cross. And he always preached that. I always loved that about him. What is one thing that you loved about him that I'm not mentioning here? Put it in the comments below so we can get a conversation started. All right, here's a word of encouragement. Here's just a little takeaway for you. You and I will not be able to preach to the masses like he has and invite thousands and thousands of people to have a relationship with Christ, but we can all live with Christ at the center of our life. We could live in such a way with integrity that points people to God, and whether that be one person or none. Now let me finish what I'm going to say here. You can live in a way that plants seeds in people's lives that nobody else can. You may not be able to lead somebody in a prayer like Billy Graham did, but you can also plant seeds by saying words of encouragement like, wow, I hope you have a great day, or something like, I like your shoes. But you get my point. The things that we say have so much power that when you go to work, when you go to school, and where you play, that you can influence people just by being you. That's a real quick video for this time, but I just wanted to talk about his life and his legacy and how much of an influence and how much he will be missed. And a lot of people say, you know, well, we know he's gonna hear, well done, good and faithful servant, but we all will if we choose to follow Christ and keep him at the center. So, with that said, I'm wrapping this thing up. Be blessed and have a great week, guys. Oh, and another thing, I'll try to do like a trending topic the second week of the month. That's just more of a guide for me, so there's no pressure there. If you have suggestions on trending topics, always comment. Send me suggestions for future videos, anything like that you have questions about, or you just like to hear me talk about. That's what I want to do. And also, I just spilled some coffee. Coffee break, you know. This is Let's Have Coffee, right? No sponsorship today, by the way.